Hello, Elaine Solomon. I bet you thought I'd forgotten, huh? No. But listen, before I forget it, I want to thank you for actually requesting another or more stories about Michael and Little House and some of the cast people, huh? All right. Again, this is Dan McBride. I played Henry Riley on Little House on the Prairie, and I was the gentleman who would come in to the Nellie's restaurant, just looking for a good home-cooked, warm meal, and it always ended up in some sort of an argument, actual fight there. You know what? In all the years and all the appearances I've made on Little House, I never once, not one time, did I have a bite of the food. Not once. I never had a bite there. So all of my efforts, I'm just looking forward to a nice home-cooked meal, went up in the air. Anyway, because of Harriet or Nellie or whoever or whatever. Anyway, so you want to hear more stories about Little House and Michael Landon and all the good people? Well, I don't think I told you, but I'll go back and tell you the first Little House segment I ever did. I think I told you about the movie that I made in which I met Michael Landon. He was the director. Well, we did some post-production work for that movie, of course. Had to go back to, I believe, was it Paramount? Maybe Paramount Studios. I don't recall, Paramount or MGM, and do some post-production work, some dubbing and looping and things like that. Anyway, I remember when we finished the movie down in Tucson, down in Arizona. It was a Sunday afternoon, if I recall, when we finished. And we had the afternoon off. We'd worked that morning, but the afternoon we were head off. And I remember Michael was sitting around the swimming pool at the Hilton Hotel. And I went up to him, and I just said, "Hi, Michael, I want to thank you very much." I said, "I won't be flying back with everybody else. I want to stay down here a couple of days and just kind of rest up." And so, anyway, he says, "Well, thank you." And he introduced me to his wife, Lynn. I'll tell you maybe a story about that sometime, okay, about Lynn and his future wife. Anyway, but he said hi. He introduced me to Lynn. He was always very nice to me, just very, very gracious and nice to me. So he introduced me to his wife, Lynn. We said hi and so forth. And then he, before I walked away, he says, "I'll be seeing you soon." Now, I just thought he was just being nice, of course. You know, he was a nice gentleman. I thought, well, that's just a nice way of saying bye. Anyway, but after we did our post-production work for the movie Killing Stone, maybe, I don't know, a few weeks. I'm not sure how long, what time went by, but I get a phone call, and it's from the casting director, and Susan Sukman. And she says, "Dan," she says, Michael would like to use you next week if you're not doing anything." I said, "I'm not doing anything." So she said, "Michael would like for you to be on Little House." So I said, "Okay." So we were shooting at Paramount Studio, and I remember I got on the set, and they were just finishing up some other scene. Well, I think they were, maybe not, because when I got to Paramount Studios, I walked into the makeup room, and Michael was just finishing up. He had just finished up, so you know what? I don't think they had shot any scenes yet when I arrived. Anyway, so Michael was just finishing up, and as he leaves, we say hi to each other, and then Michael says, "Well, I'll see you on the set." I said, "Okay." So when I'm all fixed up and made pretty, I went on the set. Oh, two things I just never remember. Anyway, went on the set, and they're at that point they are shooting a scene, and I don't know what the scene was, but it was on Paramount Studio at their ranch backlot called the Ranch. Anyway, and so they're shooting the scene and whatever. I thought, well, I better go to the restroom. Now, I didn't know exactly, that was Paramount Studios, and I didn't know Paramount that well. But I went, anyway, there's one thing an actor knows to do, or he should know to do. Whenever he leaves the set, the area of the set, he should tell the assistant director, the AD, the assistant director, he's leaving to go back to the dressing room or going to go bathroom, whatever. I didn't do that. I just wandered off because I knew they were shooting a scene. I wandered off, found the restroom, and in a short while I come back, and someone, I don't recall who, maybe the AD, the assistant director, maybe he said, Dan, where you been? We've been asking for you, been calling for you. I thought, oh my gosh. Anyway, so I'm back on the set. Michael comes over, he says, already? I said, yep. He says, okay, go on up. And he's pointing to the church steeple. The church steeple there on Paramount Lot. And it's, about 40, 50 feet up. And he said, okay, go on up. And I remember exactly the conversation between the two of us. I said, you're kidding. He said, no, are you scared of heights? I said, no. He said, okay. But here's the thing about that. My script that I had been given a few days in advance, whatever, said I'd be sitting on a bench. And Michael comes driving by in a horse and buggy. And we have our conversation. No one gave me the change in the script. I had an old script that they had given to me. Anyway, so I go around to the back of the church, the steeple. It's a facade, not completely finished. It's just the front, all you see. Anyway, so I climbed the ladder all the way up to the top. I say 40, 50 feet up there. And then it's a church steeple, so it's all open. I've got to figure out a way how to get settled into the open spots, the window areas, be able to be secured and not fall out, and be able to say the dialogue and do the scene. Anyway, so I finally figured out a way how to sit there and be balanced and all that stuff. And so we're ready. Michael is not directing that scene because he's in it, and I don't recall who is directing it, but he probably gave some assistant director, what to do. Anyway, so Michael comes by. He's driving a horse and wagon, and there's a mark he's got to hit. He's got to stop exactly on the mark because the way the camera angle was down on the ground or about maybe wagon level, and it's shooting up, catching Michael and me up in the church steeple, 40, 50 feet up. It's catching both of us in the camera at the same time. So Michael's got to hit a mark so he will be in the camera range and I'll be in the camera range. Well, as he drives up the first take, he drives up and he misses the mark. He overshoots it. Not much, really. Maybe a couple of feet, but that's enough to be out of the camera range. So interesting. That didn't bother me, of course. And so Michael scoots over in the wagon. He scoots over in the seat of the wagon. Now, that's interesting. And a Teamster union member hops in the wagon, turns it around, takes it all the way back to the starting point for the horse and wagon. Meaning, Michael, because of union rules, Michael was not allowed to do that. Only a Teamster could do that. It had to be a Teamster because, they're in the driver's seats. So they're in, they do trucking and stuff like that. And so the next time, now the second take, Michael comes by, he hits his mark, and we do the scene. And we do it in one take. Of course. Anyway, and that was my first segment. My first time on Little House was shooting that scene. That was part of it. And I don't even know what the segment was. I have no idea the name of the segment or anything. And that was at Paramount Studios. The very first scene I ever did for Little House on the Prairie. And as I said, when I committed to, Cardinal sin number 2, you never leave the set without telling the AD where you're going so they'll know, what's going on. Anyway, but I didn't do that. Now, interesting. I had got to know several of the crew, like the assistant director, the cinematographer. I got to know some of the crew members when we shot the movie because Michael used some of the same crew members for that shooting down in Arizona and Mexico. So I got to know several of the guys, and so I don't think they was as harsh on me as they could have been. Anyway, now that was my first segment. Now let me tell you about a food fight that Nellie and I had. I know you'll find this interesting. I think you'll find it interesting. And of course, the problem is, I began to quickly learn when you show up in a set, you never know how it's going to be shot. Really, like I said with that first segment, Little House, my script says I'm sitting on a bench. No, it got changed to being up in that steeple. Anyway, and I got a photograph. I have a photograph of that scene of me and Michael in the same shot. It's a pretty good photograph. Anyway, food fight. We're doing a scene with Nellie in Nellie's restaurant. And Michael's directing the scene, and I'm sitting at one of the round tables, as you know, in the Nellie's restaurant, the round tables, and Michael does most of everything he's doing. Oh, wait a minute, let me think. No, that's another scene I'm thinking of. Anyway, but we're going to do the food fight. So Michael's directing it. And so we rehearsed. When we rehearsed, we didn't really rehearse so much for how we're going to do it. It was more for technical, for the lights, things like that, camera angles, but not really rehearse the dialogue and what would be what would be the way we're going to do it. Anyway, so Nellie and I, we get into an argument, and it's back and forth, and Nellie go away, and then whatever. So at one point, I yell out, and you may have seen the segment. I yell out to Nellie. I said, "Where's my food?" And Nellie turns and yells, "Coming right up." And only the way Nellie can say it, right? Now, interesting. At that point, we cut. We stopped shooting. As a matter of fact, we now go to lunch. We go to lunch. Right in the middle of the scene. I hear Michael, or an AD, I'm not sure who, but I'll say the AD, tell Allison, Allison, we're done for the day. You're done for the day. You can go home if you wish. Now, that doesn't bother me. I mean, I just overheard that, but I'm thinking, on one end, we haven't finished the scene. We haven't finished it all. But Allison was done for the day. Her part, she was done. So she goes home. The rest of us, we go over to the commissary. We have lunch, eat and everything. We come back to let's see, was this MGM? I guess MGM studio. Yeah. We come back to MGM, and we're going to pick up the scene where we left off. Remember the scene? The last thing was I said, "Where's my food?" And Nellie says, "Coming right up." And that's where we cut. That's when we stopped and went for lunch break. We get back from lunch, we're going to pick up that scene. What I always found interesting is that Nellie and I had a fight, had an argument, had a food fight, and Nellie wasn't even there for half of the scene. What happened was, the way we shot it, and you may have seen this scene, when Nellie says, "Coming right up," we cut. And I don't know if they cut, they pick up with a camera. I think it's camera angle to me. I think the camera's on me. And so Michael comes over to me before we start shooting anything, and he has a plate in his hand. And he says, "Dan, now this is a breakaway plate, so it won't hurt you." And I knew what he meant, right? Now, interesting. I'm now very, very grateful to Michael for doing that, because after that movie, Rust, with Alec Baldwin, and they had that mishap, the shooting, the killing of their cinematographer, I think it was, right? So Michael, I mean, we're going back 50 years ago, whatever it was, 40 years ago, and he's making sure everything is safe, and he comes over to tell me, "It's a breakaway plate, you won't get hurt." So, okay. So now we're going to pick up the shot, and I don't think I even said the scene. I mean, I don't think I had any dogs. It's just that they now had someone, a crew member, I believe, to throw the plate at me. It was a good toss, I must say. Whoever it was, did a wonderful job, because it was a perfect toss, and it hits me, and I'm now falling out of the chair. As I said, the amazing thing is, the way we shot the scene is, Allison was home, at her palatial home, enjoying the afternoon by her swimming pool. I've been to Allison's home. It didn't have all that, but it's a nice home. Anyway, but she was home, relaxing, enjoying, and we're finishing up her scene. So, but when you see the scene, when you see it, it appears as if we're all there together, but nope, not at all. Now, one last thing, and then I want to let you go, because I've been long-winded. The first time I worked with Katherine McGregor, with Harriet, I remember sitting on the side of the sound stage, or the side of the set there in the sound stage, and of course we've already had our script and everything, And I normally we're working with Harriet in a scene coming up soon. But the assistant director came over to me, And he says, Dan, I'd like for you to run. Can you run your lines with Katherine? Now, run your lines, meaning, can you go over and just rehearse the dialogue with each other? Now, I'd never had anybody ever to ask me to do that in the different movies or TV shows. I never had anyone to ever ask me to run lines or tell me to go and run lines. Well, I said, fine, I'd be glad to. So I find Harriet, I find Katherine. We go over to a dark corner. And I had never seen Little House on the Prairie. And I did not know Harriet's or Katherine McGregor's character of Harriet. I didn't know what her character was like. So we start running the dialogue, and I thought Harriet was just having fun, or Katherine was having fun, and not really. And I didn't realize that was her character. So I kind of started mimicking her and my dialogue back to her. And Katherine says to me, "Oh no, don't do that." And of course, I found out time after time, years later, of Harriet's character. Anyway, we ran the lines, and she had them down, and I understood them. So we shoot the scene, and the scene went fine. There was nothing special about the scene, if I remember. Although I remember thinking back afterwards, I should have done more to the scene than I did. But anyway, I learned later that apparently from time to time, Katherine would have trouble remembering her dialogue. So it wasn't so much they wanted me to do it, or they were concerned about me. They were more concerned about Harriet not knowing the dialogue for whatever scene. So we did it. And after we finished shooting the scene, we were giggling and laughing because our characters were so obnoxious to each other as such, right? Anyway, Katherine was a delight. She was a delight to work with. When she would do a scene, I'd sit there and watch it, and I just loved Harriet. Olsen was my favorite character. Of all the people on Little House, Harriet was my favorite. And maybe sometime later in the future, I'll tell you more about some of the stuff about Harriet and whatever else, okay? Anyway, well, Helene, by the way, I love the way you spell your first name, Helene. I love that. Helene Solomon. This is great. Well, Helene, it was my privilege, and I'm thrilled to get to know you. If you haven't already, send me a friend request at my Facebook, Dan McBride, and you'll be able to figure out which one is Dan McBride. But send me a friend request, and I'll respond, and I'll be delighted to respond, okay? I've been long-winded. Hopefully, I didn't bore you with some of my stories. And again, this is Dan McBride, Henry Riley from Little House on the Prairie. It was my pleasure. Bye for now.